found that one of the things that make what we call dirty genes was gotten from this country, somewhere in Naivasha, Honorable Speaker. But if you look and go around, you'll find the patent for such things is not in this country, but is somewhere in the US. Honorable Speaker, it is true that even our colonial history and the contributions of Kenyans and Africans in the colonial history was documented by the whites, but not by the people who actually were supposed to give the story, Honorable Speaker. And it is sad, it is not right, it is a big loss for, Honorable Speaker, our African culture, that even what we depend on is something that we are not coming from ourselves, but coming from people who actually visit this country. We have advancements even in gastronomy research being done in this country for years back. But, Honorable Speaker, you will not find those things in the history because we don't have a science museum, Honorable Speaker. That is why I really commend this motion. I also want to say it has a lot of contribution in ensuring that we create a niche, a multi-million niche of research, and ensure that we also advance the technologies that have come from within and not depending mostly, Honorable Speaker, from what we get from without. We have a lot of interest in KEMRI. And Honorable Speaker, I feel that is one of the organizations that need to be well guarded. But Honorable Speaker, government really does not give much for KEMRI on research. It tells you why we have a very low output when it comes to science research, when we really need continuous research and embracement of research in terms of the problems that we face today in science, Honorable Speaker. We just had COVID the other day, and there was no much money that was put to see if we can even have our own medicine coming from our own institutions and from our own people, Honorable Speaker. And I believe for a country that is bombarded a lot with a lot of things from the West, Honorable Speaker, it is upon this National Assembly and upon this administration that is there today to ensure that we put resources to ensure we improve on the technologies that can actually help this country advance and continue being ahead. And I'm happy that today we are talking of AI. And interestingly, I heard KJ mention that with AI, we should be able to document even things from our past and ensure that they are well put together in a science museum, Honorable Speaker. I also want to say that this country has also not put a lot of effort in ensuring that we also are leading way on the research on artificial intelligence. We are waiting for others to do things, then we pick it up, Honorable Speaker. That's why you find even many of the applications and many of the things that are happening here today, we have embraced technologies from outside the country without empowering our own technological advancement here, Honorable Speaker. I believe all this can be said, but if there is no funding, deliberate funding, we will not be able to keep up with what is happening in the world. The world is moving too fast. And when it is moving too fast, there is need to put more efforts. While we encourage job job tourism outside Kenya, Honorable Speaker, we should be able to have a strategy to retain some minds within Kenya for advancement of our own country and ensure that we are able to, we don't have a brain drain in terms of workforce. And Honorable Speaker, I believe this motion, this issue of science museum, Honorable Speaker, is something that needs to be actually supported. I support it 100%. And Honorable Speaker, say that government needs to do an extra thing and ensure that it funds science, deliberately fund science. Honorable Speaker, I was in the University of Nairobi, and many of the researches that are happening in our universities are being funded from the West. Belinda and Gates Foundation, and many other organizations that fund research in this country. And they fund and take it away. It is not remaining in this country. It is taken away to other countries, Honorable Speaker. It is sad, but I believe that it is upon us to ensure that we start taking research seriously. Research go hand in hand with the development of a nation. And Honorable Speaker, if you don't research, you don't develop. Today we are talking of AI. Tomorrow we are going to be talking of a different thing as the world is moving. Honorable Speaker, I rise and I support. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Gideon Ochanda, member for Bondo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to quickly mention a few things that, in my view, we need to be very careful about as a country. Number one, the place of museums. The place of museums in this country or any other parts of the world. If you compare, you realize that we are very far. We are extremely far away from where people are. We are extremely far away from what many other countries have isolated as their core historical developments in terms of whether it is scientific, cultural, or historical. We are very far. Museums ordinarily indicates how people have evolved over time, keeping your evolution, history in terms of how you evolve, in terms of how you are doing your things, whether they're agricultural, whether your own things of production. Those are normally the reason why museums are in place. But if you look at our situation, the first problem we encounter, who does the collection? Even if they are artifacts, even if they are tools, whatever they are, who does the collections? Who identifies in terms of where we are able to collect or where we are able to get these things? Before you start talking about doing an infrastructure for purpose of storing them, who does them? If somebody met some old technology in the village, like the grinding stones, for example, they are very scientific in my view, in as much as they are for purpose of culture, history, and how food was produced. They are very scientific. How do you want to compare that with the meals that we have at the moment? It indicates exactly how you have developed and have evolved over a period of time. Who does that? Who identifies that this, for example, like I'm talking about, was really a scientific engagement? So this is one big challenge, one big problem that we have in terms of, first of all, identifying what these things are. Because many are disregarded, many are ignored, they're just strewn all over, and nobody really connects them with some kind of a development that we've gone through over a period of time. This is the biggest challenge, Madam Speaker, that we have as a country. The next is, have we seen what other museums have evolved to? Because a lot more of the museums we have in the rest of the world have evolved from just being indicators of evolution, but are real spots of tourism. Yeah? Tourism. If you get to some of these big cities, one of the places that, even if you asked, what are the best sites that you want to see? Where can you go to as a tourist? You realize that museums will be featuring all over. Museums, and there will be one place, one part of the city, another part of the city, because of they're looking at museums no longer as just storage of history, of science, but museums as spots where you are able to attract tourists. We have this, if you look at the Romanic, even their own roads, they remain historic. How the roads were done, they remain very historic because they survived to date roads that were done in the 17th, 18th century. What was the science behind doing those roads? What was the science behind some of the things that are still existing? What was the science? Even if you are in London today, you realize people are staying in houses that were done in 18th, 19th century. What is the science behind this? When our houses here in Githurai will collapse in under 3 years. So what is it that was behind these things? So in my view, these are some of the things that really need to be collected deliberately. And this is where we must, like, I want to think the mover needs to look at this very seriously, that who is really able to identify that this is where the issue is? Who is able to identify for us the first house that was done by our first, whether they're Juakali, first mentions in this country? What was the first house that they did? Where is that house to date? Does it survive? What is it that was done that we are able to get it, that our current houses cannot stand for 5 years? So these are really the reasons why museums are very necessary. Yeah? Apart from being issues of evolution, they're also reference points that something happened, something was done, and it has withstood the times, and it exists to date. So, Madam Speaker, I really support this, but we really need to focus in terms of the identification process of what we consider as scientific, that has evolved, has grown with us over a period of time, Madam Speaker. What we have at the moment, Madam Speaker, are shells. Yeah, in fact, I can clearly say that what we have now as a scientific museum is only Railways Museum in this country. I don't think there's any other. Yeah, I really don't think there's any other. And the Railway Museum is somewhere in the middle of a dilapidated place, ignored, and nobody knows that it exists. Only a few of us have an idea that it exists. But that is a very serious scientific kind of museum that we have. In as much as it is not us who developed the first trains, that it's not us who developed the first rail lines, but it is here to demonstrate that, no, things had happened. Madam Speaker, I keep saying that you look at the bridge that was done in San Francisco in the 18th century, still survives and remains one of the biggest bridges we have in the world. Yet in this country, the bridge that we can really say is ours, that we've seen over a period of time, was done in the 70s, the bridge that is Nyali Bridge. Yet the one in San Francisco has withstood the time. It's been there for over 300 years. It's the biggest, and it's such a scene that it behoves. When you get there, you realize, no, there is something that was done. So if somebody was able to do that 300 years ago, what kind of a brain would that be to date? I think this is the kind of a relationship that we need to be looking at when we are looking at the issues of museum. So, Madam Speaker, I thank Jay for this, and I support.
Thank you, Dr. Ochanda. The Honorable Momanyi Jerusha Mongina, member for Nyamira County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also rise to support the establishment of science museums in our country, Kenya. Madam Speaker, the kind of museums that we have these days, which were established a long time ago, they do not have facts which can convince even the Africans to appreciate what used to happen. Madam Speaker, if some of us who went to school and who went out to do research, when we went to study oral literature, Madam Speaker, we were getting information, real information, from the old people, and they were telling us on how they used to do things. Madam Speaker, we could understand that before the invention of the health facilities which we have these days, Madam Speaker, even our forefathers used to do operations. They could operate somebody, and finally, that person could survive. We are not able these days to understand how they used to do it. If there were science museums which could explain, which could keep these facts and explain them to us, we could be able to appreciate how far we have come, how far the evolution of the knowledge that we have these days, how far we have come. Madam Speaker, if we look at our country today, from different cultural backgrounds where we come from, we can appreciate that even the languages, the different languages, our mother tongues which we used to talk, the children of this era cannot even be able to communicate or understand what the native language is communicating. Madam Speaker, I want to support this motion because the science museums will keep what will be there for posterity, so that even those who will come will understand where we have come from, where we are, and what are some of the innovations which have been put in place, which have made our economy even to grow, our education to grow, where even the students who are in universities can go and make research and understand and even contribute to the increase of that knowledge which we want as a country. So, Madam Speaker, I want to support and thank KJ for bringing this very progressive motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Naomi Wako, member for Marsabit County.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important motion, as I also congratulate Honorable John Kierie for coming up with this motion of establishment of a science museum. And from the onset, I confirm that I support and I suggest that it is a good idea, yes, but as we establish, let us not only think of the big cities, but think of every county and, if possible, every constituency. Because when it comes to development and growing different areas, in the past we have been concentrating on big towns, big places, and forgotten some areas that need a lot of such establishment of museums. And I want to say that Kenya is growing very fast, and especially our young people have gone before us and have connected with the world, and they have learned a lot of things. And in order for us to keep them busy and be relevant, we must have establishment of different establishment of museums and ICT centers and different hubs that can keep them busy and also create employment for our young people. We know very well that we have so many graduates in this country who are not employed and are seeking employment, and the establishment of science museum will be an exciting thing for our young people, and that will keep them being creative, innovative, and they will easily connect with the world and remain relevant. Honorable Speaker, I support this idea, again, because as Africans, we have lost a lot. When we were colonized, we lost almost everything that we had as our culture, our tradition, and we adapted the Western culture that keeps affecting us. And today, it is hard for us even to go back, hard for our generation, and it will be too hard for the young generation. And the only way that we can be relevant as Africans is by coming up with museums so that our young people or the generations that will come after us will be able to see what has been happening in the past and also relate with the history so that they can learn from that. We know very well that museums are a place to explore and test ideas about the natural world. And we know very well, again, in our country, we are endowed, we have been blessed with different cultures, different traditions, different languages, and we are all proud of where we come from. But nothing much has been done in terms of keeping history and showcasing what we've had in the past. And that is why displaying those things today in our museums will be the best thing that we can do as a country. Again, science, when it comes to science and research, we know very well that we are also gifted. Kenyans are very knowledgeable, and doing research, many of our young people who have that skill have not been utilized and have not utilized their skills. If we do this in every country, in every county, we will be able to utilize the skills of our young people and even those who are experienced so that we can bring together ideas and even explore more ideas and do enough research and see how we can benefit our country. Honorable Speaker, you know very well that today cancer is one illness that is affecting the entire world. But especially us as Kenyans, we have been seriously affected. And for those of us who come from northern part of this country, and especially Marsabit, we have been wondering why we have lost a lot of our people to cancer. And it is good, it will only be good for us to engage in more research and invite experts so that we can know the root cause of our problem. The only thing that we can do today and the only special gift that we can give to our young people and generations to come is to establish a science museum in every county. And Honorable Speaker, the purpose of a museum is for education. Our young people will be motivated. They will be able to go to different places and exchange ideas. The other purpose is inspiration. We will be able to inspire so many people. We have other people who have gone before us in different communities. And it will be good for us to keep the fire burning by talking about them, by capturing their ideas and what they have done in the past, so that even the young generation can be proud of what our forefathers have done. By showcasing different cultures and traditions, we will be able to inspire so many people. Again, it will be another tourist attraction center. Our young people who are in schools will be able to visit the museums and learn, and it will encourage so many people. For some of us, seeing is believing. When people visit and see the different cultures, the different traditions, the things that we used to do in the past, we will all be proud of that. When we were young, we used to, gather around our grandparents and elderly people, and we used to learn a lot from them. They used to speak to us. And up to today, some of the things that we caught, some of the words of wisdom that we use from our villages are the words that we got when we were growing up. These science museums, will serve a great purpose in our nation. I would want to say that as a government today, if we can invest in establishment of the museums, the science museums, we will have done one of the great things that we need to do, and we'll have invested for the future. Again, we cannot only invest in establishing, but maintaining, because as a country we are also good at establishing something and we forget the maintenance part of it. So if we can come up with a program that caters from the beginning to the end and make sure that it will be very well planned for and self-sustaining, so that even generations that will come after us will continue enjoying, and it will go beyond our generation and also developing our different counties and creating jobs. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support and I pray that it will be established in, if not in all the villages, in every county and in every constituency. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Abzirat Ali, nominated member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I take this opportunity to thank the Honorable KJ, a very young and innovative member. I think by establishing a science museum will help this country in collections of ideas, scientific ideas. We have a lot of scattered skills, and by having a museum, we'll have, a center for innovation and skills data. This museum also, Madam Speaker, can be used as a reference point for our technological aspect. When we have, data collected for some times and information taken to a center, it can be used for perfection and for creation of, the skills that can take this country far. Madam Speaker, we have technology as a culture, and it's evolving always. It's dynamic. And by having, a science museum, this innovation culture will always be remembered for our youth, for our generations. I happened to travel to a place called Stuttgart in Germany, and I visited a Mercedes-Benz museum. I have seen Mercedes-Benz evolve from maybe within a century or so, evolved from a place, a situation where they used to pull by a cart, and it evolved until its present level. By going there, you will just see a whole complete, culture of innovations. And by emulating such, advanced museums, even ourselves, I think we can create a very robust science hub, historical hub, that can be used for our own use. Finally, Madam Speaker, history is known to us. We have known our past. We know our past. We can use our past and compare it with our present to perfect it. And our future can only be good if we, grab our knowledge of the past and the present. Therefore, by having a museum that is, technology-oriented, I think we will take our country to the places we admire to be. With those few remarks, I thank and I support the motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Mpuri Aburi, member for Tigania East.
Asante Madam Speaker kwa kunipa nafasi hii. Yangu ni kidogo sana. Ya kwamba tukiwa na museum katika nchi yetu ya Kenya ni kitu ya maana. Kwa sababu zamani hapa katika nchi yetu ya Kenya kulikuwa na machini ya kutengeza unga. Kabla zile machini sasa list ama close kakuja hapa Kenya, kulikuwa na machini inatengenezwa na maji. Ilikuwa ni mawe kwa mawe ambayo ilikuwa inazunguza unga, watu wanaenda kutengeza ugali. Lakini wazee hizi vijana wetu ama watoto wetu ukiwauliza kwamba ukiwaeleza ya kwamba kulikuwa na machini kama hawezi jua, kwa sababu sisi tulizao. Zamani mtu angekatwa na panga, kulikuwa na ndawa ya miti ambayo ilikuwa inakatwa, inawekwa kwa mkono na mkono inasikana. Siku hizi hao vijana wetu wakiuliza vitu kama hizo hawawezi wakajua. Ndivyo ninasema kwamba lazima tuwe na science museum. For example, ukienda kule kwangu Meru, ukiangalia museum ya Meru County, unapata pale manyoka peke yake na tortoise. Na hizo vitu zote hazitakani katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Zamani kulikuwa na gari inaitwa teleboka. Na hiyo gari ilikuwa ni ya miguu 4, ilikuwa ni ya miti. Ukieleza vijana wetu ya kwamba kulikuwa na gari kama hiyo, hawezi wakajua bwana Speaker. Ndipo mimi nasema kwamba lazima tunasupport hii museum, ndio tuwe eti ya kwamba wakati itafika watoto wetu watuulize ya kwamba nyinyi mlikuwa mbunge, nyinyi mlikuwa viongozi, kwa nini mlipoteza utamaduni wetu? Ndipo naambia watu eti ya kwamba rundiza gari yako side mirror, angalia mahali umetoka, eti ya kwamba kuna watu ambao umeacha nyuma. So Madam Speaker, mimi na support hiyo hoja ya bwana KJ. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable James Nyikal, member for Seme.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Let me start by appreciating the initiative of Honorable KJ. Madam Speaker, storing knowledge is recognizing knowledge. And the museum is exactly in the same place as a library, except how it is used. We should see it in terms of tourism, but we should see it in terms of the knowledge that is there. Madam Speaker, this world we live in is actually technical. And if you even look at the link between religion, science, politics, and development, you are actually amazed that for those who are religious, when God created the world, at the end of it, he said, I put this in the hands of the human beings which were created last to take care of. And you cannot have dominion over anything if you do not understand it. And therefore, the basis of our existence in this world is understanding how creation works. And that is what science is all about. What we do in politics is basically to manage that knowledge, whether it is technology, whether it is pure knowledge, so that it is for the benefit of mankind. And to that extent, it is actually our duty to store that knowledge in a structured manner that can later on be actually used so that knowledge grows upon existing knowledge. It is incremental. Madam Speaker, many people don't think there was science in Africa. But how could we have survived in a technical world if we did not understand? I'm amazed, Madam Speaker, the indigenous knowledge we have. I look back when I was a child, and I think of an environment, and one thing my grandfather hated was people who were cutting trees. He would always say, why are you cutting that tree? You will create a desert. Did it have to take time for us to go to international conferences to know what my grandfather knew? It's because we didn't store it. Madam Speaker, if you look at food, I look at food storage. We look at freezing as the best way of storing food. But look at how we stored food. Drying food with salt is extremely scientific. No bacteria can grow in a dry environment, which is with salt. It's extremely scientific. Fermenting food produces antibacterials. And it took a long time before it was realized that fermented milk or sour milk actually will stay longer on the shelf without invasion from bacteria. So that when we were giving our children fermented milk, people thought that this was not smart. Look at food, blood. I mean, it was known, at least in my culture, that children and pregnant women, you needed to get blood from animals to feed them. Now, of course, we go to the hospitals to get folic acid, to get iron. They were just given food. Then, when the Europeans came, these things were seen as backward, and we didn't store it. So, Madam Speaker, look at ironmongering. All cultures actually.
Order, Honorable Onyekal.
Okay.
Honorable Onyekal, the motion will proceed at another time, and you have a balance of 5 minutes.
Thank you.
In case you wish to continue with the debate. Honorable members, as you are aware, the Speaker made a communication yesterday, 1st October 2024, that today morning sitting will be interrupted at 12 noon to allow a forum for a briefing of members on the modalities of public participation in regard to the special motion for removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. The Kamukunji will be at noon. Here in the chamber, I therefore call upon members to attend, and as I adjourn, I request those in the chamber to remain. Honorable members, and the time now being 11:56, this House stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, 2nd of October, 2024 at 2:30 p.m.
And this is pursuant to the House Standing Order number 30, paragraph 3, with regards to hours of sitting. And pursuant to this standing order is that the House resolves to hold a morning sitting on Tuesday, 8th October, the year 2024, commencing from 9 a.m. for purposes of commencement of a debate on a special motion on the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, that is the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. And also with regards to that procedural motion on the resolutions is to sit until conclusion of the consideration of the special motion on the proposed removal from office by impeachment of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya during the afternoon sitting on Tuesday, 8th October. Remember, this is also the day that the Deputy President is also expected to appear, or for fair hearing will be expected to appear before the House, either physically or by legal representation or both. And this is a procedural motion that the members, as they commence the House sitting this morning, will be considering. The second procedural motion with regards to that is suspension of a specified sitting. And this is pursuant to the House Standing Order number 28, paragraph 4, that is on the calendar of the Assembly, that the House resolves to suspend its sittings of Thursday, 3rd, that is from tomorrow, that is October the year 2024, so as to allow administrative arrangements necessary to facilitate the program for public participation. Of course, this is with regards to the special motion for the removal from office by impeachment of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. These are some of the directives that the House Business Committee had resolved on and are being notified to the members. That is the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Gladys Boss, already inside the chambers. Allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast brought to you by PBU in partnership with KBC. Good morning.
Honorable members, let us pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the officers of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation